Welcome to the Cold and Dark Quick Start demo for the Flight Sim Studio 727 for MSFS. Here I'm just showing how I start the plane based on the documentation I've read. Okay, first flight engineer panel batteries on. Now over to the APU panel and flick the APU master to start. After a short period it returns to the on position. The APU starts up and I flick the essential power selector to APU. Back on the APU panel, I close the circuit breaker. The airplane now comes to life, everything lights up, the avionics start. On the panel behind the pilot seat, I switch on the radio master, and then on the panel by the pilot's yoke, I switch on VHF1 and turn up the volume. At this stage, I switch on one System B hydraulic pump, and on the upper flight engineer panel, I open all the bleed air switches. Now I switch the pack cooling doors to open and temporarily switch on the packs. On the overhead panel, switch on the window heat, and returning to the flight engineer panel, switch on the System A hydraulic pumps. I now activate the cargo heat outflow switch, and on the lower engineer panel, the oil cooler to normal. Now before engine start, I switch off the packs. On the overhead panel, we'll start engine number 3, flip open the cover, flick to ground, and now introduce fuel on the pedestal. When the engine has started, the start valve open light will extinguish on the flight engineer panel. I now repeat the process for engine number 2, cover, ground, introduce fuel. I'm going to show here a good start, so the N2 should be around 60% and the M1 around 40%. And finally start engine number 1 and introduce fuel. It's recommended to start engine number 3 before pushback and then engine 1 and 2 afterwards, but for demo purposes I'm doing it all at the gate here. So now we've got 3 good starts. I'm going to switch the AC meters to generator. They'll start flashing, and this is when we close the engine generator breakers. I'm using Gen 1 here, so I flick the essential power selector over to generator 1, then close the other 2 breakers. Finally, bleed air off for engine 1 and 3, and packs on. Now I'll activate the final hydraulic pump on System B, and I'll switch off the APU. See the light extinguish. Finally, on the clipboards, I'm going to remove the chocks and the cones. On the overhead panel, transponder to TARA, emergency exit lights armed, airplane lighting as required, and no smoking and seatbelt lights. And that's all there is to it. You can now push back, taxi out, nose wheel and everything works just fine. Check out my full flight demo from here on out.